I'm back after a break. I've been away for a few days, 10 days or so, and getting back into some Serbian, sterbien. I've made it through to the Austro-Hungarian portion of game turn 2. Yeah, there's no way that I'm going to be making videos every single turn from now on. I've just got to try and push through and then drop in and give a bit of a summary, I think, or when key things are happening. In this game, the Serbians have taken back this town of Sabac and have held it for game turn 1 and game turn 2, so they are now a victory point ahead. Something to note is the difficulties the Austro-Hungarians run into here. They have these very big, powerful looking units, but you can see that in 2 turns the Serbians have got a big wall of infantry divisions here now. Drina 1 combined, Morava 1, Morava 2 and Simodia 1. A big blocking line of infantry divisions down there, and they've got a couple of units stacked in there as well. Not the most powerful, but still enough. The problems here for the Austro-Hungarians are the combat limitations for mountains. And this doesn't really look like mountains, but it counts as foothills, and that counts as mountains, and you can only attack into mountains with 1 1/4 divisions, or indeed out of them. So Drina 1 can attack out of there, but the Austro-Hungarians would desperately like to sort of attack at 2 to 1 into those mountains, but can't because only a division and a quarter can attack in. This stack here, for example, is a division and a quarter. It's got a division and then it's got a regiment in it, which counts as 1 1/4 division equivalents. But these guys cannot combine into there, and these could not push forward and then combine into here because these are also in mountains. That's low mountain there. So this terrain really is suiting the defender. They've got a division and a quarter in there, which is the perfect quantity to defend with. And so there's a real struggle breaking this down. Now they could try and gang up on something like this, but out in the open here. But that's not so easy, and also it's lying right on the border of their sort of army organisations, so that would get complex. So yeah, trying to battle through these mountains in here. There's a little there's mountains, foothills there, low mountain here. Trying to battle through these because there are enough ways for the Serbians to create zones of control to make it very difficult to fight through. Similarly down here, this guy's in low mountains, very hard to attack. And so the Serbians have got a stable position here at the moment that the Austrians are struggling to break down, coupled with the fact that the Austro-Hungarians, I hope I just said Austro-Hungarians, the Austro-Hungarians are having to move towards these green and red cubes, not hex by hex. In other words, if they move a unit, it has to end its move closer to one of those cubes. So they can't just decide that they'll withdraw and go marching off somewhere else. Once they've moved forward, they have to keep moving forward. So if this guy comes forward into here, he can't suddenly decide that he's going to just fall back into here. Only once he's combat ineffective or demoralised. So they have to get roughed up before they can fall back. So they're kind of wedged in here now in a situation where all they can really do is just keep throwing fairly low odds attacks into these defenders and hope to get a decent roll somewhere. This terrain is often adding defensive bonuses as well. So for example, if this guy attacks into here, this guy's defence is 15, he's got a +2 for the foothills against 12. Then there's a shift left because this guy will be attacking up up an elevation level or more than one. So attacking from a lower elevation into there with not as good a troops, you'll end up on the 3 to 4 table or the 1 to 2 table. These guys have got a better quality troops, 4 to 3, so you're getting negative modifiers on the dice roll, and it's all very, very tough indeed. Down in this area, again, the attack limitations, stacking limitations, supply limitations are forcing the Austro-Hungarians to look at how they work their way round the defending units towards their goal, rather than trying to attack through them. And so they forced these guys back simply by threatening to come around here, and there's more units backed up here, and they may continue to try and extend their army into somewhere like this, and then try and get around somewhere like this and see if they can get supply around there. They can certainly get supply into here because it can come down this road and up into the high mountains for a hex, but then they'd struggle to get supply into here. But perhaps coming into here will force the issue in terms of supply for these guys, or maybe it won't. Maybe their supply is guaranteed, who knows. But anyway, in both these situations, they're going to try and use some superiority of numbers to work their way around the defence, rather than and just hold it in place, rather than just knocking their head against a brick wall and getting all their troops killed. So yeah, it's a very difficult game for the Austro-Hungarian attackers at the moment. No doubt I've done some things really, really poorly, not understanding the rules or the implications of them, but I'll keep pushing on, but with probably far fewer updates from here on in. Serbian was Sterbien, 1914. I've made it through to the first interphase. So we've done game turns 1 to 4, we're now in the first interphase. Not much happens in this interphase. We calculate some points here, and I think allocate replacements. Placement segment and administrative segment, each player makes the notes of number of IPs they're eligible to construct. So yeah, we just allocate replacements, and then we allocate IPs. So a few things to discuss here. Firstly, some Austro-Hungarian breakthroughs. They've got the Montenegrins, in real trouble. This they've lost a small regiment, and this unit's now being surrounded and reduced. He's out of supplies, outnumbered about 8 to 1 or something horrible there, and only the fact that there are mountains around are keeping him in any way viable. But he's got to fall back and find places that he can fall back to. He's got to check where the plateau offers defensive opportunities, which is what Boljanik would be. Otherwise, he has to find places to fall back, which are going to remain in supply. That's going to be ugly. It's looking very, very nasty. I've made a mistake here because I have not been advancing the Uzici depot from this spot. But I'm going to need to do that if I want to push these Lim and Uzici brigades forwards, because they'll run out of supply. So if they're going to offer any sort of defence, they're going to need their supply lines extended, which means pushing this forward and relocating this. Probably. So that's one thing that's going on. So Austro-Hungarian breakthrough down here, and in here they've managed to push their way a bit further forward towards their primary objective in here by pushing these two regiments out of the way. Actually, these Serbian regiments, along with Drina, launched an attack on this 42nd Division when it was in here, and yeah, it all went wrong and they took losses, and then the 42nd Division was able to counter-attack and push them back, and they're now no longer in mountainous terrain. Yeah, so it's all pretty unpleasant there as well. However, they have been able to swing another division down, which can now take up the the job of offering defence while these sort of pull back and hopefully get some reinforcements from the in the interface. So yeah, it's still this situation down here looks very difficult because the Montenegrins aren't going to get any reinforcements until, I don't think, the third interface. So they've got to get through maybe 6 more turns before they even start getting reinforcements, and that's just not looking possible with a reduced brigade down here, given what they're facing. So yeah, very ugly. One thing that I do want to talk about is the victory points. One of the ways that the Austro-Hungarians get the victory points is by advancing into Serbia. And I don't know if you remember, but I mentioned that they get victory points based on the column that they've got to, so minus 20. So if they got to this hex here with a formation, not an asset unit, but a formation, this is column 27, they would get 7 victory points. I thought that was at the end of the game, but it turns out that that is every interface. So they have got victory points coming in every interface based on the column that they've got to. Now, I need to kind of check this, but one thing that I'm not impressed about, let me have a look at this. Each interface, the AH player calculates the VPs earned due to his advance into Serbia to find the number of VPs earned by the furthest AH infantry formation, not cavalry or asset units. Subtract 20 from the hex's column number, choose the hex that earns the greatest number of VPs. The sum may be 0, positive but not negative. Only hexes east of column 20, south of the Sava Donau river line and north of hex row 23 exclusive are eligible. Okay. North of hex row 23 just means that it has to be north of a line in here then, so it has to be in this area. But what that means is, in this instance, this unit here is part of the 4th Corps, and that's getting withdrawn on turn 6. This unit here, this infantry division here, is part of the 4th Corps and is getting withdrawn on turn 6. It's going away. What that means is that the best thing that the Austro-Hungarians could do on their part of the turn immediately prior to the interface was to randomly throw an infantry division across the river for no military purpose whatsoever in order to grab 8 points. This was the best hex they could do it in. Bang, 8 points for just a completely nonsensical move. Just throw an infantry division across the river. We know we're losing it anyway before the next interphase. Let's have the 8 points now. I'm not happy about that as a game mechanism. In fact, this whole victory points scheme is so far extremely odd. We're racking up a victory point a turn for the Serbians for control of a city up here that Samaja won's on for who knows why, and 8 points for the Austro-Hungarians for randomly throwing an infantry division across the river with no intention of holding it or staying there. They can retreat next turn. They could go back across the river next turn, just having got their 8 points and now withdraw again. What is that all about? And what are the Serbians meant to do? Line this entire river line with units so that can't be done? Well, they're not exactly overflowing with infantry to stop that from happening. If they did that, they'd have nothing to fight the actual war on the front with. is just, I don't know, there's either I'm missing the point here or it's utter nonsense. I just can't make head nor tail of that at the moment. And I must, yeah, these victory conditions are just not making any sense to me. And when the victory conditions don't make sense, it then becomes essentially impossible to make any sort of viable decisions for either side. You're just reacting to these sort of random VP allocations. But this is no way, this is no way to actually conduct a viable military offensive. Just, we'll throw an infantry division across a river because it's worth 8 points. It's just nonsense, isn't it? And yeah, it's pissing me off at the moment. Areas of this game are actually proving, like this sort of tussle conflict down this front here, and this sort of desperate attempt to keep things at bay through these mountains here, and work out solutions to these problems. These are interesting little geometric and supply puzzles that are going on down here. But this is, I just can't understand how that makes sense at all.
Okay, I've reached the second interface. So we've done game turns 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, 7 turns in total. And so we're at, out of 40. So, not very far in. But I have to say that I am starting to enjoy this now. I've got through the aggravations and, the actual gameplay, the tracing of supply, the trying to work out your supply routes, the attacks, the relatively small number of attacks, but they're quite important attacks, give it a nice flow. They really do. And the situation, now that we've got some of those silly VP point sort of gamesmanship out the way, at least the situation I'm in at the moment, it may rear its ugly head again, but the situation I'm in at the moment has a nice dynamic to it. We've got a very dangerous Austro-Hungarian breakthrough down here in the mountains, where they're picking their way through this defence. They've managed to move a supply line all the way up this rail through the mountains here, and that's now opened up more opportunities to bring troops into new areas, and they're really causing problems here. They've got adjacent to their primary location here, and they've made enough attacks that they could abandon this strategic plan for the loss of, I think, only 3 victory points, or they could keep going and try and take that location and have a loss of no victory points, but it may free them up more to call this a day, lose the 3 victory points and have all these troops ready to do other things, because there's opportunities perhaps to drive through this area here and perhaps open up some attacks into this space. There might be interesting opportunities. So this is, really engaging stuff down here. Here we have a deadlock in the centre where the troops are pretty much extended as far as they can, and they're facing some just really strong infantry divisions all the way down this line. They're not able to gang up on them because they're in mountains, so they can't put the numbers in to get 2-to-1 odds. And the troops they're facing are higher quality. They're just on a losing, in a losing situation here. This is a stalemate, but they're slowly losing, and I don't think they're going to get any closer to this primary objective. And difficult to know what to do there, because that would cost them at the moment 10 victory points, I think, to give up here, but they may have to. And then up here, the 4th Corps has just disappeared, and they're losing horribly. There's 2 big Serbian infantry divisions compiling over the river. The Serbians have constructed their own pontoon bridges and are counterattacking into this area, and have taken Deck, which is one of their objectives, and are going to try and smash up here towards this one. and can possibly swing round and put pressure in here as well. So, you know, you've got a very, very touch and go situation for the Austro-Hungarians here, a messy stalemate here, which could go wrong for them, but a good successful attack down here. Really nice, you know, multifaceted sort of game where there's, you know, lots of things to consider. These objectives, with these troops all tied into these objectives as well, they really haven't got anything that they can swing round to help here, so they may be forced to abandon this plan and eat the victory point loss simply so that they've got something that they can divert up, or just give themselves some room to manoeuvre so that they're not having to move forward. Yeah, so it's a very engaging situation that is developing in this game, and the turns are moving relatively quickly. And now we can start building entrenchments as well for this interface. In the following turns, both sides can build to improve positions. So there's opportunities now to dig in, and both sides have to consider how they're going to use those opportunities. Yeah, lots to think about, and it's getting, you know, it's getting, as I say, more enjoyable and more upbeat about it at the moment. I still don't know whether I'll last the distance of the whole 40 turns, but it's certainly nice to be through the initial frustrations.